Welcome to You Can Do It. I'm your host, Chris, and in this video we're going to be installing this Rovesun mini split that we got off Amazon in this very tiny office. We picked this thing up. It was pretty inexpensive. I think it was like $400 on Amazon. We've got this 18 by 38 platform that it's going to sit on. It's a plastic pad. It's going to be mounted on the outside. So we just went ahead and went with a pre-form one. Now this unit does come with the inside unit. It's all complete. We've got a bag of parts here. We've got some wiring harness right here that connects the inside unit to the outside unit. We got both the small line set and the big line set. So it's complete. And we also went with this PVC 4-inch line set cover that'll go on. It's a kit. It'll go up to 16 feet. We're going to show you how that installs. So we're doing a complete install for you. And then some of the parts that you're going to need here for the electrical, we've got a 30 amp disconnect that we'll be using. We've got a pre-made whip, electrical whip. It's a 1/2 inch by 6 foot. And all this will be in the links below. We'll show you where to get it. And then we've got a hole saw to make our wall penetration from the inside to the out. We've got some Nylog blue gasket thread sealant for making our connections. And of course, you're going to have some power tools to drill the hole, impact gun. And then here, we've got a torque wrench. It's an HVAC torque wrench. I've looked at a few videos. You got to have this tool in order to make the right torque setting on the line so that you don't have any leaks, because you don't want any leaks. You don't want the Freon leaking out and then the unit just stops working. And then we have a vacuum pump. So we went with this vacuum pump. It's complete, has all the gauges. It's got extra fittings in here, and we'll show you how this works as well. So stay tuned. We're going to show you how to install this unit. All right, so we're inside the office here. We got this small wall right here. Most jobs are going to have sheetrock, I would assume, unless you're in a basement. It's got a concrete wall. But here we've got these old doors on the wall, and I know where the studs are because when I built this wall, I know exactly where the studs are. But you're going to want to make sure you know where your studs are in your wall, and you're going to want to locate those. The other thing too is you want to keep in mind, you want to do some investigation to see if there's any plumbing in the wall or electrical. So you don't have an air vent going up the wall and you're going to mount this thing and drill a hole through the wall with your hole saw. So you just want to make sure, because we're going to be cutting a hole here for the line set, the wiring, the drain tube to go out. It's going to be at an angle to get to the outside. This is probably one of the most critical installation part, is this hole and making sure you don't hit a stud or you hit electrical wiring, water line. So just do some research before you decide. So in my situation, I've got the head unit here. So this is actually going to be flipped around. So it's going to go on the wall somewhere right in this area here. It's going to be offset a little bit because I've got the door that opens to my office, and so I want the door to clear the unit, so I got to make sure I'm somewhere in this area here. So I'm going to go ahead and take the bracket off the back of the unit and figure out the placement of the indoor unit. So here's the back of the unit. This is the bottom of the unit, and this is the top. So the wall mount unit, there's 2 brackets down here, 2 plastic brackets to release the metal bracket. You just carefully push up on those and release the bracket, and you can pull this out. So basically what I'm doing here is taking some measurements from the outside to the holes here for mounting screw purposes, because I'm going to lay this bracket up on the wall, so I accurately have this thing installed properly. So you just want to measure where your holes are. The directions kind of give you kind of a basic guideline, but you're just going to really want to know where these holes are with this bracket and do lots of measuring. Now, this line set right here, this is copper, and once we get this thing placed, we're going to carefully take these hoses. They are wrapped. You'll see that they are copper lines. We're going to carefully straighten these things out. And then when we're ready to install the head unit here, you may need a second person to help you. But these lines are going to go down at an angle when you go to mount this head unit onto this bracket. Now the bracket, as you can see, it's got these bent out brackets. That's where the unit fits on, the top part. This is the top, that's the bottom, and then it just snaps into place. So I'm going to go ahead and lay this out and mount the bracket on the wall and get ready for the next step, which is drill this hole for the line set and the wiring. I have the bracket mounted. I had to install a piece of filler wood here in the back because this is it's a raised panel door. So I had to put a filler just so the bracket is nice and level on the wall, and plus it's not sunk in the bracket. So I had to do something a little bit different. I got my marks here. This is where I'm going to make my hole right here. So I measured, I put a line. This is the outside of the actual unit, the plastic cover. And so I measured in from that. And so I'm going to be placing my hole right here in this location here. So depending on the unit that you are going with, this is where the hole is. This is going to be the critical spot right here that you're going to make sure that you measure and then remeasure, and you've got it correct before you drill the hole. So now looking at the back of the unit here, this little metal plate with a hole in it, I have a squeeze connector that I'll be using here. That's going to be for our electrical wiring harness. It's going to go into this hole, and that's what's going to secure the wiring from falling out. So I'm going to get that in here in a minute. But this line here, so we're going to carefully kind of bend this line up at an angle here. Now, when I measured for my hole, I'm at about 3 1/4 inches from the outside. So when I go to bend this up, it's going to be about 3 1/4 here. That's how I determined where my hole is going to be, and then coming from the bottom. So basically, we're going to kind of carefully bend this up. And it's going to be at a slight angle going down, just like so. So that's pretty much what it's going to look like. So you've got your copper lines here, just so you can kind of see what's going on. And you'll want to be real careful you don't kink these lines, because then it won't work. So, and then I'm going to go ahead and put the squeeze connector. It has a 1/2 inch lock ring, and then stick that in there and screw that together. All right, ready to drill the hole. I got a 2-inch hole saw. I'm going to be going at a slight angle, going into the wall, down at an angle here to the outside. So I'll switch over to a extension shaft on this to get to the outside. So we're all the way through, just got to move some insulation. So the hole's going at an angle. All right, so we're ready to get an extra hand in here, and we're going to carefully insert the line set and the electrical cord through the hole, and then set it on the bracket. I have the cord running through the wall. So the control wiring is going through the wall. It's rather long. So let me show you what I got going on down here. I took some electrical tape and I took the condensate lines and the drain hose. You'll see the drain hose is right there to the left, the white one. You want to get them all bundled up. Just kind of wrap them nice and tight. So when you push these things through the hole, they go through nice and easy. You're not struggling. I got the door to where it clears the unit, so we're good to go. So I'm going to go outside and install the ducting out there, the PVC tray. I'm going to go ahead and come in here and make the electrical connections just to make sure we've got enough wiring. I did shove the wire up into this cavity up in here. But if I was to do this differently here, I would probably make this connection before I mounted this on the wall, just so I know that it's connected. But this is how I'm going to do it here, just because it's easy to do. There it is. I got the wire right here. There's the cable. So I'm going to go ahead and make that connection. I'll bring the camera closer. All right, so here's your terminals. You got 1, 2, 3, and then that's the ground right there, the green wire with that symbol right there. So it's pretty easy here, guys. So if you're looking at your cables, each one has a number on it. So there's number 2, and then you'll see 3, and then number 1. Number 1 is the trying to hold that wire there. Is the yellow. So your yellow will go on number 1, and then you've got the white for number 2. Number 3 is the black. So we're going to go ahead. I'll get these mounted up. Now there is this little screw right here. You want to pull that screw off and run the wire underneath this bar right here. It'll just keep it from pulling tight, so when you're working on the outside, you don't pull the wires, but you're going to snug them down on these Phillips screws here, on these terminal screws. So I'm going to go ahead and proceed with the install. There's the final install. I got the wire running behind the clamp here, the plastic clamp, and then the fork terminals go underneath the plates that are behind the Phillips screws. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and close this up and move on to the outside. In the bag of parts that they gave us, they got some tape in there, some foam wrap. There's quite a few things in here that aren't actually listed in the directions, but there's this HVAC putty. There's 2 bags of it. I'm going to take one of these bags. I probably only need one. I'm going to go out on the outside and I'm going to plug the hole before I put the PVC line set cover on. I'm going to plug this hole with this stuff. Now you can see the hole. It's oversized. So this putty that they give us here, this stuff here, it should do the trick in filling all that in. Or if you want to use foam or you want to use some silicone, but I'm just going to use what they give us here. All right, I got the hole all sealed up. So I went from the top down. I didn't pack it too tight to where I'm kinking my hose here, because it is kind of thin plastic. You can collapse it pretty easy, but just keep an eye on that. But it's nice and sealed, so no water or bugs can get in there. But once I get the cover on, I'm going to go ahead and caulk around the cover and it'll be nice and watertight. So the next step, I'm going to take my 2 line sets here, the 2 copper line sets, and I'm going to carefully roll these out on the hard surface here. I am going to be working on the back side of the building here, but I do have some shrubs and some leaves and stuff back there. I'm not going to try to roll this out back there. I'm going to do it out here in the driveway. So I'm going to carefully roll this out, kind of like a fire hose. And you don't want to kink it. You want to be very careful in doing this. You don't want to take the caps out of the end of the fittings here until you're ready to connect it. So you'll leave those in for now. Just be careful when rolling it out. You don't kink it, like I said. So we'll go ahead and roll both of these out. Try to get them nice and straight. Next step is we're going to be checking the specs here on our tubing. So you want to identify what tubing size you have according to your unit. It actually stamped here, specifications. And the reason why you need to know this is because we need to know the torque setting for torquing down the brass fittings here. Now you can see here, I bought this torque wrench. It's an HVAC torque wrench off Amazon. It had good reviews, and it actually meets the specs that I need to torque this down. I checked that in the book before I ordered it. Now, in the book here, it'll tell you right here, it gives you the specs for the torque settings for the different size pipe. So we're going to be dealing with 1/4 inch and 3/8. So 1/4 inch, the smaller pipe, 3/8, the larger pipe. I'm going to be using Nylog Blue. It's recommended when I make these connections so I don't have any Freon leaks whatsoever. So we're going to go ahead and proceed to that. The next step, carefully taking the piping to the back without kinking it. I'm at the outside wall where the penetration is, and I've got the pipes down here. I went ahead and I bled off the air. I just unscrewed this and air came out. They had it pressurized from the factory when they ship it to you. So I'm just gonna take this cap off. This is the 3/8 pipe. You can't get this messed up as far as connecting the wrong pipe because they're different sizes. So you'll need your torque wrench, and you're gonna need a smaller wrench to actually hold this side of the pipe. So what we're going to do here, since I'm kind of in a tight area, I'm going to apply the Nylog Blue to the threads of this guy here. So I'm going to have to put the camera down to do that, but I'm going to put this Nylog Blue on these threads and also on the coupler that's going to go on it. So I'm going to go all the way around the threads carefully, get enough coated on there so when I tighten this up to the proper torque settings, it's going to be nice and tight and leak free. So here's the, I'll have everything in the description down below for you. So now when you put the two together here, I've got this coated really good on both sides. Not too much to where it's going down the pipe, but just it's in the threads. Now I tightened this up by hand. I got several turns on it all the way up. You don't want to cross thread this thing and then go to torque it down and it doesn't seat properly. So I'm just gonna snug it all the way up, and then I'll go ahead and get my torque wrench, the other crescent wrench. Just adjust it to its proper size here. Now this is, I'm in a tight spot here, guys, so bear with me here. And so when you go to tighten this down, the torque wrench, it will click when you get to the right torque setting. You just want to make sure you hold it steady with the other wrench so you don't twist the pipe. And then once it clicks, that's it. All right, now that we've made both connections on the copper lines, on our condensate lines, you got your drain hose up here and it's just kind of sticking out. Now they give you 2 coils inside your parts box. You're going to grab those 2 and you're going to extend the hoses down. And once we get the hose down to kind of where we're going to be placing the unit, I'm going to start installing the ducting on the side here. It's the tray that all of my piping and everything's going to be hidden in. It has a cover. I'm going to start installing that to get to the place of where I'm actually going to install the actual unit. I've got the plastic line set cover here. You can see that it's fully put together here. I'm going to go ahead and take it apart here at the seam. So this is the back side here. It's got the lip on the front. So I'm going to go ahead and mount this as close up to the pipes as possible. I'll level it up on the wall. It's hard to see what I'm doing right here, but I'll bring the camera up there so you can see exactly how I'm installing it. I got this bush in the way right here and it makes it a little bit difficult, but I'll reposition the camera here in just a sec. I've got it mounted up on the wall. I just put a couple of screws in the center here. Just be careful you don't damage any of your piping. So I've got it level. As you can see, it's short down here, but they give you 16 feet worth of parts, elbows. You got some 90s in there, all different parts for whatever application you may have. So down here at the bottom, I'm not going all the way to the ground. I've got this 90 right here that they give us. So I'm going to position that where I want to turn, and I'm just going to measure from the inside of this plastic here on this 90 up to the bottom of the tray, which is 25 inches from where I'm at. So I'm going to go ahead and cut both the cover and the tray, the whole thing, to length. before I install this 25-inch track that I just cut, they make these little couplers. They're in all your box of parts. It's a 2-piece coupler. You can see it right here. Now I've got this piece mounted here. Let me take that apart. It just slides up underneath behind your track. Just loosen the screw, or if you haven't put the screw in yet, this just slides up in there, and this allows you to not have a seam here that's showing. It just covers it over. It has the other piece once you get it together, and then you can just bring your other piece in. There's a lip right here. You just slide it in there. It brings it right up to that lip, and then go ahead and put the level on it and screw it down. So now that I've got that installed, I'm going to come down here to the bottom. This is where I'm going to install the 90. As you can see here, it has 3 holes on the back of it. That piece there is going to mount to the wall, and you just take it apart, and then this guy comes in. You can see that line right there. That will just come right up to the bottom of the track. Trying to do this one-handed. There we go. So it just comes in like that, and we'll just go ahead and install. You can install 3 hole or screws or 2. This thing's pretty light, so I mean 2 screws is good. But I'm going to go ahead and install that one, and then I'll go ahead and start going to the right. So I got a little bit of an extension coming out of the 90 here, and I've got this siding issue over here where I got 2 different elevations. So I'm going to go ahead and use this flexible duct that they give you. It looks kind of like a gutter downspout. I'm going to come in to the coupler and then transition over, and then I'll go back to hard pipe once I get around this siding trim. So I'm going to go ahead and install that. So that's just going to slide right in there as if I was using the hard cover. It'll just kind of go in like that. But I'm going to have to slide my pipes. I'll have to slide this ducting through the pipes. So I'm going to have to do a little positioning here and fold my lines into the pipe here, so I know exactly where this is going to go. So I have the track installed almost all the way down to where I'm going to set my unit. I left the cover off on the last section, but I did put it on up all the way up through here. But the elbow, I wanted to show you, I brought the drain hose down, directly down through the elbow. I drilled a small hole. The instructions didn't say to do that, but I did that because I just didn't want the condensate line to be laying all the way flat down through that channel and have it get twisted, or it just gets caked up with mold or whatever. I just didn't want to have to deal with that, so I just have it coming right out. It is long. I will cut it. I'm not going to just let it lay down there in the leaves. And then up here at the top, I'm going to leave this open because when I do my pressure test, I just want to make sure my fittings are accessible, just so I can view them and assess them when I do the vacuum pump. And if I need to look at them or do any work on them or tighten them because I failed the test, then I'll be able to have access. So I'm not going to put the cover on just yet. All right, it's time to install the plastic 18 by 38 pad for the unit to sit on. I'm going to install it right at the end of the line sets, right next to all those bushes. I'm going to be installing the pad right in this area here. These branches and these bushes here, I'll probably trim them back some just so they're not like encroaching into the fan blades of the condenser, but I'm trying to keep some of these bushes here just to hide it so the neighbors don't have to see it as well. As you can see, I got the 38-inch pad mounted. I had to scoot it back a little bit because it didn't look like my pipes were gonna quite make my connections here. So I don't have this screwed down. I brought it in here just to place it. I took the cover off the bottom. There's 1 screw here. The top cover for the electrical, there's 4 screws. I pulled those off, put the screws back in. But for right now, I'm just going to make sure that I can bend these pipes carefully to my connection ports. I don't have this screwed down yet, so I can shift it down a little bit if need be. I did put the plastic cover on this just so I can get this in here. Ideally, I'd like for this to be out a little bit further, just so I can get access around it. It's probably going to collect leaves. I'll probably build some sort of a lean-to over it just to kind of keep some cover on it. But it is going to get a lot of leaves back here, unfortunately, where it's located. And the neighbors are right over here. So I'm trying to keep it hidden for their sake so they don't have to see it. So anyhow, I'm going to go ahead and start to bend my pipes carefully, the copper lines, to the proper placement. And I'm going to go ahead and move forward with that. All right, I've got the bottom one here tightened down. It's torqued to the right setting using the torque wrench. You'll have to refer to the book there and see what it says for you to torque the small and the large port here. So now I'm putting the 5/8 one on. I put the nylon blue on. I put a thin layer around the threads all the way around, and then a thin layer in the inside. And I have my pipe bent, not kinked, but just make sure you don't kink it, and then just get it to where it goes in there, and make sure the pipe is coming straight on inside the fitting here. You want to kind of help it to where it's coming straight into the fitting, because it'll make it easier to screw down. Then just screw it on down by hand until you can't go any further, and then go ahead, adjust your torque wrench to the proper setting, and then go ahead and tighten this down. And we're going to move on to the next step, and that's with the vacuum pump. There you go. So here's our vacuum pump. We got this off Amazon. You got two connections here, a vertical and one that comes out the side. Your on-off switch, pretty basic. They give you a whole tube of oil, and you pour the whole thing in this reservoir right here before you get started. It has a sight glass on here, and you fill it right to the half line right here. And the directions tell you how to do that. It's pretty easy. And here's our gauges. So you got a blue hose, yellow hose, red hose. We're only going to be using the blue and the yellow hose in this application. I'm going to show you how we're going to hook it all up. I just wanted to show you here at the table what comes in this kit. And then you got all these other parts over here that comes with another set of valves, tons of different connections. We're going to be using this brass fitting right here to connect up to the condenser, just this guy right here. And we're going to go ahead and take our pump and our gauges over to the condenser and get ready to hook it up. All right, we got our pump here. We got the gauges hanging on the wall there. I'm going to carefully just lay this red hose down, and I'm going to take the yellow hose here, and I'll zoom in for you. And down here on the pump, I'm going to take this cap off on the side, and I'm going to screw the yellow hose into the pump. It does have a rubber O-ring inside, so you don't have to really crank it down too tight. I might snug it up just with a pair of small channel locks. Then the blue hose here, I'm going to come over here to the condenser. And on this top fitting here, I'm going to unscrew that one. I'm going to take the other fitting that I had in the box, and I'm going to screw that on first. Snug it up. And then screw your blue hose onto that. Now that our fittings are nice and snug on the condenser and the pump, I'm going to open up this valve, the blue valve on the gauge. We're going to open it all the way up. So I'm going to hang it back on the screw and I'm ready to turn it on. Now we're going to turn this on and walk away from it, or we'll just let it run for 20 minutes and we'll come back and check the gauge. Okay, it's been 20 minutes now. We're going to take our gauges here and we're going to take the blue valve and we're going to close it before we turn off the pump. So make sure that's closed. So we'll go ahead and set that back up there. Turn this off and we're going to wait 20 minutes and we'll come back and check the gauge to see if it's still at the negative pressure, and if not, then obviously we have a leak and we'll have to investigate our connections. So we'll come back in 20 minutes. Got this 1/2-inch whip installed here. It goes up on the wall there to our disconnect. The disconnect is mounted over there. The electrical that goes into the shop, it's probably going to be different than most people's wiring, so I'm not showing that. I'm just showing this end of the connection when it comes to wiring up the AC. So over here, I've got my whip coming in. Now this was a pre-wired whip. This is number 10. This is a 20 amp 110 AC. It's not 220. So I've got a neutral, a hot wire, and a ground. So these are these little terminals here. I'm going to put these terminals on the wire, these closed terminals, just for a cleaner install. So this is for my circuit coming in that's powering up the unit, and then I've also got my controls that go into the wall mounted unit. Those are going to come in right down here through this rubber grommet that they supply. Now there was a grommet over here. I pulled that out so I could get this Flex 90 in there. So I'm just going to bring this up through here. Now they do give you these little cord straps here. You can run it through there and tighten it up just so it doesn't get pulled out, which is a good thing. There's a ground screw over on this side for the wiring going into the room for the wall unit, and then there's another ground screw over here. And then from left to right, it's terminal 1, 2, 3, and also these wires, they're numbered. 1, you can see it on there, 1, 2, and 3, so you can't mess up. So I'm going to go ahead and terminate these guys here on this side with the cable that runs the wall unit. All right, here's a close-up. You can see the terminals, 1, 2, 3. That's for your connections for the wire going into the wall mount unit. So 1, 2, 3, and then over here you've got in. That's for your neutral wire, which is this guy. And then the L, that's your line. That's the hot wire. And then obviously you got your ground wires down here. So you can see the black cable here coming in from the wall unit, and then this is our electrical coming from the circuit breaker from the sub panel. All right, one thing I wanted to show you on the line set ducting cover, I wasn't too thrilled that they didn't give us an end cap for this. I will pull that down flush, but it's open, so I guess I'm gonna have to foam that. This other system that I liked, it had like this cone that came down and it had just a small opening for the line set to come out. So I guess if you're coming vertically, it won't be such a big deal, but now that I'm laying horizontally on the wall, water and critters can get in there. So I'll probably foam that or figure out a way to plug that off. So that was one negative that I didn't really care for that particular system, but it does install nice, as you can see. I'll take you down there and show you. I still have to put the cover on the wall up there, but now that the gauges have been sitting here for quite some time, well over probably an hour, and it's still at the negative, just the way it was when we closed the valve. So we're good to go here. So I'm gonna go ahead and move on to the next step. Okay, so while everything's still hooked up, we haven't disconnected anything yet. I'm gonna take these caps off, these protective caps, to expose the Allen set screw in both of them. And I'm going to release the Freon into, I'm gonna charge the system, but I'm not disconnecting anything until I do so. So you're gonna just turn your Allen wrench. You'll hear the air, you'll hear it going in. Just open it up all the way until it stops. We'll put that cap on. We'll snug that up. And then you'll do the same down here on this guy. All right, now you're good to go ahead and take off your pump hoses and disconnect everything. So now that we're all done here for now, a couple things we need to do. I'm gonna fill this in, and then also I'm gonna take this tape, I'm gonna wrap my pipes here. I'm gonna carefully wrap them and wrap them up really nice. And then I also need to secure the feet of this to the pad because it's just sitting here. So we're gonna screw that down. And then last, we're gonna, right up here on the wall, we're going to finish installing the duct covers going vertically all the way up to the wall penetration. All right, here's the final product. I got the plates on here, got the electrical plate, and then the cover, protective cover for the condensate valves. And then also, I went ahead, I wrapped this up really good. I used some 10 mil Dottie tape. It's really thick tape in the area where it's exposed. It didn't come with that tape. I had this small roll here on my truck. And then over here, I pushed this foam. I got foam shoved back in here about 6 inches. There was this foam pad that came out of a packaging box. We had something shipped here, I think a dehumidifier, but it worked great. I just shoved that in there instead of unleashing a whole can of gap filler. Just makes a mess. It'd probably travel all the way down in there, and just if I needed to pull it apart. So I can easily take these out and push them back in. So there's the product there. It is on and it's working great. I do have it secured to the pad. I'll take you down here and show you the final install on the cover cap up at the top where we did the wall penetration. So here's a view of the PVC line cover, the condensate line cover, and how we transition there with this flexible piece that worked out great for making that transition all the way down. Then down here, we've got the elbow. I went ahead and cut the pipe. You can see water dripping out already. So it just has a gradual flow all the way down. There's no flat spots in my drain pipe to where it'll just have stagnant water in it. And then all the way up here at the top, we've got this cap. It's got 3 screws. It actually goes like this. So you got a screw on that side, a screw on this side, and then one at the top. And then up here where the penetration is, this guy just slides over the top here, comes down, and that's it. Just 3 screws and you're done. All right, so we're complete. This thing's been running for like 2 hours. I'm very impressed with the unit outside. It's super quiet, you can't even hear it. And this thing, you can actually tilt this thing down, this vent, if you don't want it blowing right on you. You can actually tilt it up, but it's at 70. I had this thing down to 65. You could almost hang meat in here. So this was an actually fairly easy install. The only thing that I had to deal with was the buck brush in the back side of the building there. Otherwise, I probably would have been able to move along a lot quicker. So I hope this video helped you out so you can install your own mini split. So thank you for watching. You can do it, and stay tuned for the next video.